your story is your superpower. I think that's the most important thing here because there are hundreds of other people doing exactly the same thing that you are doing. And the only way really to stand out is with your story.
Welcome to the Phase 4 podcast, inspired by Vishen Lakiani and Ajit Nawalkar, co-founders of EverCoach, a division of Vine Valley. In this podcast, we speak to coaches and creatives about where they were, where they are, and where they are going. This is an intersection of what we focus on expands, and your story is your superpower. My guest today is Dori. She is a public speaker and confidence coach who helps business owners and coaches turn their message into a powerful talk that attracts clients, builds authority, and grows their business. Today, we're going to talk about that and much more. And Dori, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely grateful. I love this subject. Public speaking is a thing of mine. Tomorrow, I'm going into a Toastmasters International Speech Contest representing my own club. So this should be fun, and crafting the message. Some of the mentors you have are some of the same mentors I have. So I want to get into all of that. But usually I like to begin with, how do you even end up in this space?
The reason why I ended up here is because I was organizing conferences a lot. So I was already on stage a lot as the event host. And you know how it goes when you're sitting there and watching all the amazing speakers on stage. And I just started to have this moment that I wish I could just be there, not the event host, but actually as the speaker and sharing my own message. I do remember one particular speaker. It was an event that I organized in Croatia. And there was around 250 people in the room, and the whole room, it just went silent. You could literally hear a pen drop. And everyone was just leaning in. Not because that he was using any superpower slides or anything. It was just the message and the delivery. And you just felt, or personally, I felt that, oh my God, he's just talking to me. This is about me. I feel so seen and understood. And that was one of the moments when it really just hit me how powerful this tool is if you know how to use it right. And I just, from that moment, just had this mission that I want to become a really good speaker. And I want to captivate an audience like he did.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's what I was thinking. Powerful. I love that when you go there, right? You see it. You've learned now from all these other speakers. You were the host, and now you'd want to transfer that into your own message, you are transferring that into your own message. And it's almost like an apprenticeship where you start here, you go through it. Now you're on the other end and you're trying to give it back to other people. And so maybe specifically when we're talking about coaches, how do they craft their message? And okay, let me set this up. When people first start coaching, it's get a niche, get your niche, get your niche. My tagline, one of them, is that your story is your superpower. And it's because it's unique to you. And I think sometimes we find that we feel like it's boring. Nobody wants to hear it because we just think everyone's doing it, and it's not true. So how do you help coaches to pull that story out of themselves to transfer it into a unique message?
Well, first of all, let me just acknowledge that I 100% agree what you just shared, that your story is your superpower. I think that's the most important thing here because there are hundreds of other people doing exactly the same thing that you are doing. And the only way really to stand out is with your story. And I think what's really powerful in sharing your story specifically is that people who are resonating with your story and with you as a person will want to work with you. And they probably logically can't even explain, why is it that I want to work with her? But something is just going to pull them towards you. And that's what's the most important is this is how you attract the right people. And the moment you try to be someone else on stage, or use a message that is not yours, or just trying to use this hero journey that you learned that, oh my God, I need to do a hero journey, but it's not really true or not unique to you, then you're just going to attract the people who are not necessarily your people. And to answer to the question that you asked, how to pull, that was a question, like how to pull out that story from them.
Yeah, so like how do they craft the message? How can they differentiate themselves from those hundreds or thousands of other people who are doing the exact same thing?
I think the differentiator is just the story itself. So it's not there is a process, of course, of like just looking back and mapping out what were the key moments in your life that you felt that there was a moment, even if it's like seems like a small moment, but for you that was a powerful moment. For me, sitting in the conference room and experiencing what I experienced with that specific speaker, that was a moment for me that it was an aha moment, and something that I want to put into my story because that was so moving and powerful for me. So it's not, it doesn't have to be like something big. And a lot of people, I think they get stuck on this, that, oh my God, like nothing really bad happened to me, or nothing like major. I didn't do anything like particular. And I just tell them, like, it doesn't matter, because it's just, what are the things that was meaningful for you? What are the moments in your life that you look back and you remember? And that those are the moments that made you who you are right now. So we're just looking for this, and everyone always finds something. There's always something there.
Yeah, you have to go back and harvest the memories, right? And it could be as little as like a teacher saying, I believe in you, or someone taking you up a mountain when you're a little kid and going on a boat or something, like anything, right? That those are those things where we don't think it's important because it's our story, but other people want to see it. I got one, a buddy of mine, he goes to Africa every year. He's been there probably 12 times in the last 12 years. And I'm playing, we have a pond here. We were just talking earlier before we started how much snow it is. And so we're shoveling snow and playing ice hockey, right? Whatever, that's what we do. We're Canadian. But those guys in Africa love that. They want to see that because they don't get to see it. So we're just going through it thinking it's nothing. To someone else, that's a powerful message, or it's just really cool, and kind of getting away a little bit from it. But how how do you do it? So you said one thing about like go through looking for the story. So this is something when we're writing books or when we're writing our memoir, it's that's how you do it. You write the stories, right? Each event that happened in the past is a story. So is that what you're saying? Like start with a list of past events that are meaningful to you?
Yeah, definitely. You can start there. You just like look at the moment of your life that either is a high or a low. It doesn't matter, because like the breakthroughs can come from both, actually. So you just look back, well, what are the moments, what are the key moments that you remember that was something where it's almost like when you look back and oh, that was a great experience. I want to relive that. Or I wish I could just transfer back to that moment and like, okay, why is that? What is that specific about that moment? What happened there? So we're just looking for different points in your life that happened that helped you to become who you are right now.
All right. And then the big one is going to be in crafting that message, confidence. The confidence, I feel like you need to kind of have it first so that you can take your story and be authoritative in your own story. And like you were saying earlier, if you're just telling another story or someone else's, it's not authentic and it comes across as inauthentic. And so how do we build confidence as we move through it?
Well, I'm a big believer that confidence is coming from actions, and the action of confidence comes first, and feeling of confidence comes later. You just need to build that muscle of like constantly be in the doing. So the first time when you're going to share your message is probably not going to be perfect, and that's okay. And you just be need to be okay with being imperfect, because imperfect is actually what I believe is perfect. And you don't want to be like this most polished speaker who knows perfectly the story and there is a perfect script. You want to be in the moment. You want to feel how you are sharing that. You really want to almost like relive that moment. And this is what is going to make it really authentic. And you just need to go and test. You need to see, it's like, you know, that what stand-up comedians are doing. They're constantly testing their jokes, what's landing, maybe just a tiny adjustment here and there is going to make it land totally different. And this is the same with speaking as well. You just need to start doing it. You need to start practicing it with people and in front of people. And the more you're going to do it, the more you will adjust it. And of course, every talk and every workshop that you ever give is never going to be exactly the same. I always say that, and this is what I learned also from my speaker coaches, there's always 3 presentations: the one that you prepared, the one that you did, and the one that you wish you did. And this is just, I think, summarizes it all. And you need to be okay with the one that the wish that you did is probably sooner or later will happen in the future. But right now it's just practicing, doing the reps.
Yeah, doing the reps. And so it's perfect even if it's not. Um,
Yeah.
I love that. The one you wish. I'm the same way. I always make notes for whatever I'm doing, and then I never use the notes anyway. And so it's like the one you prepare, then the one you actually do. And then yeah, there's some analyzing after, but I find the more you do it, you build your own confidence. And then the analyzer for me is still there, but I also know it's not as much where I go back and I'll look at it and be like, oh my God, what was I even thinking that I was worried about? So I do know a lot of new speakers are worried. Anxious is probably a better word. They get anxiety. Nobody on the crowd maybe can see it, but inside they'll feel it and they're nervous and right up until the moment and maybe even during. Do you have any advice for that, or do you see that in your work?
Definitely, I feel like that the anxiety never really goes away fully. Because if you don't have anxiety, I never met, first of all, anyone, even the most amazing speakers that I've seen and witnessed, they all had anxiety before. Of course, it can get lower, so it's not as intense as it was, but it's always going to be there. And I think you just need to reframe it. Anxiety means that I care, that this is important. And from it's coming also from a somatic aspect. I do help with my clients with somatic work, somatic emotional release, because obviously the speaking anxiety is something that we're dealing with. And it's so important that you learn how to sit with uncomfortable feelings. So if anxiety shows up, your reaction should not be that, oh my God, how I can make this go away immediately so I can actually go on stage. Like, no, no, no. You should know and you should be prepared that, yes, fear, anxiety, anxiousness, they all gonna show up. So why don't you just expect it? And when it happens, you know that, okay, it's here and I'm just making space for it. I'm not overthinking it. It's here and I'm okay. It just means that I care. And now let's just go on stage and give it all. It's not about me. It's about the audience. And when you shift that focus and you really think about the audience as one, or even just like one person, like who is that one person in this audience who needs to hear my message right now? Because even your stories are not about you. Like your stories, this is again, I'm quoting my amazing speaker coach, is like, she always says, your story is your vehicle. Your story is just a vehicle. How are you going to get that person, that transformation that the person needs? And it's not the outcome. It's not about me. It's not about, oh, let me share this. It's just something that I'm using to help you get your own insights.
Yeah. Elizabeth Gilbert, I think is Eat, Pray, Love, but she has another book called Big Magic. And she talks about fear that would kind of like you just did. She says it's always going to be there, right? That's where the similarity is, that it's not going away, but you make friends with it. And so she says, like, I'm driving the car, and fear, you can sit in the back seat and you can come for the ride, but I'm in charge. And like just knowing it's there. And then another one with fear, I always feel like I ask people, is this fear or is it excitement? Because they feel the same way in the body. And just like you're saying that it's important, it means it's important, right? If you didn't care, you wouldn't care. Obviously, it's important. So I guess what I'm saying and what you're saying is that fear is going to be there, but it's almost like a signal that this is something that you want to do and that's meaningful and that it's important. And I think I want to make sure I got it right. Did what you're saying about one person? So there's an audience full of people, and we're just speaking to one person. You can look at whoever, but really you're just trying to talk to one person, or are you speaking to the whole audience? Or am I missing that altogether?
You're speaking to what I meant there. You're speaking obviously to the whole audience, but we know that not everyone in the audience is going to resonate with your message, with what you're sharing, with your story. So in your mind, like I see this as a mistake when, and we do this, I think, as humans a lot, that we try to, and we wire to focus on what's the negative. So in speaking, it comes out that you're on stage and you saw someone who is not engaged. You see this person, you just feel that that person is not engaged. And a lot of the speakers, they will try to win that person back. Like, how can I engage? How can I get him engaged? And I always tell everyone when we're talking about speaking in general, I'm like, no, like you should be okay that not everyone is going to resonate with that. So focus on the ones who do. Focus on the ones who are literally cannot wait for you. What are you going to say next? Who are sitting there like leaning forward, like smiling at you, and look at those people and try to ignore the ones. I'm not saying like ignore fully, but like try to not focus on them, because if you're focusing the person who is not engaged, you're going to start become like nervous, and your energy will shift. Like, it's kind of like, how can I prove myself to this person that yes, this is useful for you. You want to hear it too. Like, no. Focus on the ones. So when I say like one person, is not necessarily meaning one, but there's always one in the audience who really needed to hear what you have to say. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
That there's always one person.
I heard Jordan Peterson, and he says when you're talking to a crowd of people, you're only talking to one person. And he doesn't mean to just look at one person and forget everyone, but he means just like the way me and you are talking right now. And then you move to the next person and the next person. So I want to know more about how to craft your message, but I also want to know first, maybe without words, there's so many other parts to it. And so what are those parts? How does that look? And what do if you're teaching me right now and I want to become a speaker, what do I need to know besides the actual speech that I'm going to say?
You
As
mean
far as
you mean
nonverbal cues,
nonverbal cues and delivery and presence?
presence, eye contact, body language, all sorts of stuff.
This is a really, really big topic, and if we want to cover everything, we're gonna be here for a long time. Well, what I'm gonna share, because yeah, this is hours of content. I think what's really important, and I read this in one of the speaker books, that actually they say that research, that everyone is constantly saying that a 90, basically like 7 or 8% of what you're saying, what your actual words are, and 93% is actually nonverbal, your body language and your vocal. That this is not even true. And you should not really focus on that, because some people, I think this is again like a mistake, what people do, that they really try to focus on body language, but they're learning a lot of things like this is how speakers are doing. And they almost put on a persona. And as much as body language and presence and tonality and all of this is like super, super important, yes. But the most important thing is that you believe in what you are sharing in your message. You're passionate about it, and passion is contagious. And when you are passionate about something and your whole body is supporting that with the body language that you need. And the problem, and there is actually, it can be a big mistake that people make, that they are trying to force themselves to do certain type of body movements because they learn. But then the message that in that moment that they are sharing is not supporting that body language. So there is a disconnect. And the person in the audience just feels that something is off. And they cannot say what is off. And what actually is off is that you are controlling a part of your body, and you would do something like naturally, you would do something different. And I think in an authentic speaker, and this is what I advocate, like, how can you be an authentic speaker? Obviously, like, learn certain movements, but when you are actually on the stage, your passion is so much more important than anything that you can learn. So if you just start with there that you're passionate about, and yes, you do use your arms and try to keep eye contact. Eye contact is super, super important. That's already a good start. And don't try to force yourself to do certain movements, to use a certain tonality, because that comes, I think, later. And you can be a good speaker without those in the beginning.
I love this. My very first motivational speech I ever gave, I missed like the meat of it. It was supposed to be 24 minutes and it was like 17 minutes, but the 7 minutes I missed was like the biggest part. But nobody knew. Nobody had any idea because of all the things you just said. I stayed with a person. I didn't use the ums or ahs. And I figured out a way to just stumble through it. And I knew after, oh my God, I forgot that whole thing, but nobody else knew. So one thing there is like, nobody knows what you're thinking, right? But everything you just said there, I don't know if you know Ed Milet. You know Ed Milet?
No.
Okay, so he's like West Coast podcast guy, but he has this saying. He says that you don't have to believe what I'm saying. You have to believe that I believe what I'm saying. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's so true. Like, because even if you don't agree with it or believe it too much, as long as the speaker has the confidence that you believe that they believe it, then it changes the tone of the whole presentation.
Yeah.
So you gave us, go ahead. Yeah, please.
But you shared, now I just wanted to react to this is exactly when you shared that you left out the 7 minutes, that the core message is, yeah, exactly, like you prepared that and then you did something else, but the audience actually doesn't know. Like, you wish that, okay, this should have been there, but it doesn't really matter, because if I'm sure it was still good. So no one really notices. No one really knows when you make a mistake. And unless if it's a big mistake, yeah, of course, but with content, they don't know what you're gonna share. They have no idea. It's only you.
Right. Yeah, that's powerful. You gave us a couple of ideas of when people common mistakes, but like I'm sure there's like probably 5 or 10 that are just constant. Like everybody makes these mistakes in the beginning. It's just part of the learning process. But what are some of those mistakes so that people can maybe skip the part of making the mistakes and they don't have to?
One mistake that I saw over and over again in the conference is people talk about themselves too much, especially in the beginning of the talk, because they want to build up that credibility that this is why I'm standing here on stage and this is why you should listen to me. But that part just drags on and becomes a super boring listing of all my credentials or the certificates. I think you can definitely create credibility with like way subtle movements and different ways. You don't have to list everything. You can just put certain aspects in different parts. And of course, people know if there is a good event host, that person's job is really to put you on that. I don't want to say that pedestal because it's not, because I do believe that everyone is, no matter if you're a speaker or not, you have something to give to each other and share with each other. And that moment that person is on stage because she wants to share something with you. But the event host job is actually to set you already up for success and set up the credibility part. So that is a big mistake, talking about yourself too long. Another mistake, a lot of people still are using slides and they put too much copy and exactly the same copy that they are sharing in the slides. And we know that a person who's sitting in the audience cannot focus on the two things. They're either reading what's on the slide or they're listening to you. And if there's a slide coming up and it has a lot of text, many people will go and start reading and you already lost them. They are not engaged because they cannot listen to what you are sharing. So actually, I really like speakers who are either not really using slides or the slides are really just supporting, like the slides should just support what you are sharing. So it's either like pictures, videos, or just one or few like keywords. It's helping you. And it's also not the same what you're going to share. That's definitely something. I mentioned this on the speaking persona. When someone has a speaking persona, this is also something that I learned from one of the best speakers that I met on my conference. And when I asked her, like, what would you tell me? What is your best tip? And at that time, I was just the host, and she just told me, just go on stage and have fun. And I was like, oh, actually, this is like the best tip I ever got. Just go on stage and have fun and just be you. The moment there is a different person, and the audience, again, when they see you on stage and then maybe they get a chance to talk to you. And if there is a different person, again, it's just a weird feeling. Of course, you need to use the room and you need to kind of like make your personality like bigger if you have a big room to fill up. You need to have like a big energy to fill that up. And of course, you're talking louder. You're not talking the same way on a big stage as you would talk in a cafe. But just that doesn't mean that the person behind that is changing. You know, you're the same person. You're just making yourself bigger or a little bit more subtle. That's another big mistake that I saw. And there are so many other things that are coming. But I wanted to also just ask you back, like, is this are the mistakes that you wanted to hear?
That's not what I want to hear. You're the expert. I can share about the slides for sure.
Yeah, you were really nodding when I when I shared that.
Yeah, because like, so what I did, it was like I said, it's supposed to be a 25-minute talk, and I just had 4 slides.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the slides was just like a QR code with my information at the end. So really, I only had 3, and they only had 1 or 2 bullet points. And the reason I did it that way was because it was a big room and people don't want to always just stare at you, right? So it gives them something to look at over there. There were screens. But guess what? When I went to go start, the girl said, our slideshow machine is broken.
Mm-hmm.
So if I did plan an entire thing around my slides, then what would I have done? I would have been in big trouble. So when she told me the slideshow was broken, I was just like, okay, fine. And I forgot all about it. Like it was out of my mind, gone. But yeah, I think that's a really good point. I would love to know, maybe, is there any techniques or style to start, like a quote? I think I always start with a quote, but is there any kind of techniques like that? I'm sure there's a bunch.
Starting with a quote is actually something that I also heard, and I personally never started with a quote, but the beginning and the end of your talk is crucial. So the very first thing you want to do when you go on stage is somehow you want to engage immediately your audience. So it can be with a question, it can be with a quote, but something that immediately is gonna grab their attention. And again, a mistake here that that I've seen many times, when especially if it's someone's first talk, that the person goes on stage and already downplays herself by saying, "Oh, I'm so glad that I'm here. I'm really nervous. I'm not a good speaker." And that's it. Like, you just lost half of your audience with that thing. And even if it's true, this is not the way how to start. So start with something. I usually like to start with questions. My way is, I love dancing, so I would probably just start with music. I did start keynotes with dancing. I did start actually my whole conference that I made everyone stand up and we were dancing, and it just energizes. It's something that people just know. It's easy. They are already doing something. You're engaging with them, and then start with still the question. I would still do that. So
Yeah, I love it. And like even or a joke maybe, or you're saying dancing, but now I'm thinking even something like with a breathing practice or anything like that, just some kind of this intention that begins it.
yeah,
The the
you
thing
you immediately want to grab them.
right. And so scientifically, if you ask a question, then the person stops thinking, who's this guy? What's he doing? Is it going to be interesting? Is this going to waste my time? Their brain has to go answer the question. So whatever the question is, if you ask them a question, their prefrontal cortex lights up. They have to go find the answer. And so right away, it sounds like they're not engaged because they're looking for the answer, but they are. They're thinking about it. And then right away, you're a little more interesting than if you just went on and said, this is my first time.
And but the question can be something super. It doesn't have to be like a question that is super complicated and they need to think about it. It can be something super easy, like, who's excited to be here, and you already raise your hand, so it's there is the movement already, so people know, like, okay, I don't need to do anything. I just need to raise my hand if I agree. So this is something a super simple. Of course, don't overuse it or don't always start with that, but especially with the conferences, many times this was just a super easy start, and then you go on and you can still continue with others. So it's not like a complicated question.
Right. So a couple ways I could go. I want to know about the somatic part, and I also want to know, like, for people just beginning, where do they find those opportunities? So I don't know which one you want to go for first.
Whatever you would like to, and I'll
Somatics. I
start
like
with.
the breathing. I
Okay.
love the energy work. I love getting in the body. I think it's super important.
Okay. What would you like to know about the somatic part?
How do you integrate it? Because I see that's a part of your work. And even just in your last answer, you were saying how you get people to just jump up and just feel the energy, and it's all energy. So being in the body, maybe, I don't know, do you get the crowd in the body, or is it about the speaker? Do they do it beforehand? How does it look?
It can actually be both. When I said the somatic before here, I mentioned that I'm using it with the person that I'm coaching and that I'm helping. So what I do there is somatic emotional release. So it's actually not um we are not really moving or doing any crazy, I don't know, rituals there. It's about connecting to your body, because many times what happens, and this is not true only for speaking, it's true for a lot of things, that we keep telling ourselves all of these stories. I'm not a speaker. If we stick to the public speaking aspect, I'm not a speaker. Who could care about my message? I don't have anything interesting to share, or my story is not something worth sharing. There's all of these things. And these are just stories that live in your head, basically. So with the somatic, when I help people with the somatic, is really getting them back into their body and really allowing that the feelings to come up, whether if it's the fear, whether if it's the anxiety, and just sitting with that, amplifying as much as we can, because the more you allow yourself to sit with that and the more you feel that, the more you can release it. And we also track back. Usually they get like a really big insights of where is this coming from. We are not going into like super like deep, and we don't have to talk about anything traumatic happened or anything where it can be something super small, but they usually get an insight. But what they mostly get is two things, like how can I sit with this uncomfortable feeling, which is going to be super useful for them right before going on stage, because, okay, I know how to allow this feeling to be here, but still take action and just be okay with it. This action, as you said, or this feeling is not going to stop me, from going on. And the second thing is really this feeling of like releasing this fear, because they realize that this is just story. And I don't know if you read the book, The Body Keeps the Score. So everything is, all of these stories are coming from an emotion, and that emotion is probably have an imprint in your body somewhere. And we are going there and really sitting with that and releasing it from the body. So it's not even going to be as intense in the future.
Yeah. I guess yoga, they call it samskaras. They're imprints that everything that's ever happened, all the stories, you make a story and then you take a snapshot of it when you're 7, 8, 10, 20 years old. And those stay inside your body until they release. And then, yeah, we're talking a little bit here about imposter syndrome, right?
Yes, definitely. A lot of people have imposter syndrome, me included. And that's why I know about I'm a recovering imposter in that sense. Yeah.
Very cool. So as we begin to wind down, if this episode resonates with you, please like, subscribe, share, and reach out to Dori. If you want to be a public speaker, you can tell by this conversation, she's got tons of tools, and she's got way more tools than we're sharing today. We don't have enough time, but you can tell that she knows what she's talking about and that she can help you get over your fear of public speaking and teach you how to get in your body and out of your head. So, Dori, I ask everyone this question. This is a Phase 4 podcast, and Phase 4 in the 6-phase meditation by Vishen Lakhiani is all about creating your future 3 years from now. So where is Dori 3 years from today?
Definitely on a big stage. I see myself on a big stage. Probably, I think the most that I did was like 500 people. So I do want to be on a bigger one, helping as many people, impacting as many lives as possible. And really just my mission with the whole public speaking is really to help people understand that public speaking can be just as enjoyable as dancing, for example. I use dancing a lot because I love dancing, and many of my clients also can really connect to that. So I just really want people to see this as not this, oh my God, this is such a fearful moment, and maybe I can just do it, maybe. But a lot of people, we know that 70% of the people are afraid of this, and this is the biggest fear. So I just want them really to learn that how can it be like fun, something fun, enjoyable, and in 3 years, I would like to impact even more people than I do now and organize even bigger events, help as many people do retreats as well, and just really be in this and help them. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. I'm trying to go down the same road, so maybe we'll speak on stages together. But this is great. I guess I would ask you, what should I have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Hmm. That's a good question. You didn't ask me about, but this is not necessarily connected 100% to public speaking, but um, yeah, my lifestyle is actually something that a lot of people can connect to or get interested in because I live location independently since 2017.
Oh yeah. You
Yeah.
don't know it.
Yes, we can say that, although I don't really like that expression, but it is, yeah. So I don't have a base and I travel around with my partner, um, and trying to be as many events, do workshops, connect with people around the world, chase the sun. Definitely. This is
That's
something. It's a
awesome.
fun fact.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. And maybe so okay, that one question earlier, I think we kind of skipped over it. So for people just starting, wanting to speak, how do they find opportunities or where can they start finding those opportunities?
I again gonna quote my speaker coach, and she always told us, and this is what I also share with people, that opportunities are everywhere. And as cliche as it sounds, but it's really true. You really just need to start sharing and talking about what is it that you actually want, and you will be surprised how many people know and can support you with your dream. But you need to set the intention first that I want to go for it and I want to do this. And then the more you talk about it, that I'm looking for stage, like not necessarily just stages, but opportunity to speak. A podcast is an opportunity to speak. Your social media is something where you can already start. Like just grab that phone and just start recording your message, your story, just start sharing it. Events, of course, like start looking for events, whether online or offline. Just look, even just ChatGPT and just put it where the events in your town or nearby. And I always tell everyone, like, don't be afraid to do your own event. Even if you never did an event before, just putting together like a small workshop where you help people with your expertise, that's something to start up. And it doesn't matter if there's like 5 or 6 or 10 people, like that's a start. That's already an audience. It doesn't matter if you're talking to one person or if you're talking to 10 or 100 or 1,000.
Yeah, those are all great. The idea of like creating your opportunities, right? Is that's kind of what you're saying. And I did the same thing. I have a friend and we have a mastermind kind of where for speaking and just getting better at that kind of thing. And we just said, hey, you know what? We're going to throw some live workshops. And so we did one about creativity, another one about warrior woman. And just that's how you start. And then another one I would add to that is Toastmasters. There's
Ghostbusters.
Toastmasters always. So 24 hours in a day. Toastmasters is worldwide. Every single hour, there's hundreds and hundreds of Toastmasters meeting going on. And you can join any of them for free and just view. Try out a different Toastmasters. We had a guy come to ours a couple weeks ago. He was from South Korea. He was in South Korea. And it was like a holiday from work. So he's like, hey, I'm just looking and I found you guys. And that's another way to do it. And yeah, all these are opportunities. And going live, that one's the biggest one because everybody has a phone, right? If you go on Instagram and you just jump on, start talking, eventually what happens is you get clear on your own ideas. You kind of niche down by accident. And then you get they're already on your Instagram. So you can look at your own stuff and see, oh, that's where I'm making. Other people don't know the mistakes you're making, but you know what they are. You know what you meant to say. And so go live. That's the biggest tip I got.
Yes, and if you touch point on something that we didn't talk actually, and maybe that's the question and that you should have asked is how someone can practice and really get better. And one way is that first of all, you need to record yourself, and recording yourself is as uncomfortable as it is for the first time to hear your voice, to see how you talk. But this is something that you need to get over and you need to just start doing. And really, there is a really good technique that I also learned from another coach. Basically, you record yourself, even just 5 minutes. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. That's not, the content is not important. What's important is first you put down the volume, you just completely mute, and you just check how are you presenting, what are the body movements, what are the things that you're doing. The second time you put the volume up, but you face down the phone so you don't see yourself. And this way, this is when you can really point out how are you talking, how is your tonality. Are you talking too fast? Are you talking too slow? What is it? Usually people talk way too fast because they just feel like that they are in presenter mode, and yeah, so they start to talk really, really fast. Also, if when someone is nervous, that's the first thing you just start. I just want to get through it really, really fast, and then let me just take me off the stage. So you check on that, and the third time, what you do is you transcribe the whole thing and you check for your all of your filler words, and then after this, you had a whole list of things like what you need to improve, and you pick one thing, not two, not five, one thing, and then the next time you focus on that to fix that, and this is how you start getting better.
Yeah, I love it. It's so important to the best advice I ever got was a mentor, and he told me, asked him, how can I get better at coaching? It wasn't even speaking, it was coaching. And he said, record yourself and watch it. And he said the same thing as you. He said, watch it without the volume because you can see your body language, then listen with the volume. And I'm telling you, that one thing right there helped me so much because I noticed things that I didn't notice while I'm in the meeting with the person, right? Like sometimes I would just jump in and cut them off, and I didn't mean to do it, but I was doing it. And then it's like, okay, you need to let the other person kind of finish, especially with coaching. But yeah, recording is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
So
it's very uncomfortable as well for the first time. A lot of
oh
people
yeah.
are just like, oh no, I hate hearing my voice. I don't want to see myself on camera, nothing. But that's the
The
way to improve.
the one you said about speaking fast, I do this all the time, and it's not because I'm nervous, but I think it's because I listen to audiobooks on like 1.5 times speed.
Yes, we all do. We all do that.
So before I ask my final question, I always let the guests take it where they want. So if you have something to sell it, a message of hope or inspiration, or mix it all together, just take it away, Dori.
I would just love to connect with the people who feel that this is resonated and they want to improve their public speaking, to find me on Instagram. And I guess you're gonna put it in the show notes, but they can find me on Dori Juhas Coach, Juhasz, my Hungarian last name. And yeah, and just come and say hi and DM me. And I also have a confidence speaker guide that is free to download if someone wants to take that first step.
Perfect. So we'll put those links in. That was my final question, but now I'll just ask you instead. You said you're jumping around chasing the sun. So where are you going to go next? Or what's a country that you really want to go to that you haven't been to yet?
Okay, it's two questions that I'm going to ask into. The first, I'm going to Mexico to play the Carmen next. So I'm going to be there in March and in April as well. And the place that I really, really want to go, there's a lot of places. The first thing that came to my mind is actually New Zealand and that side of the world, like New Zealand and Australia. I haven't been there, and this is a big bucket list item for me.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to hear those kind of things. So, Dori, I'm so grateful for your time today. This was awesome, really fun, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation. Really enjoyed it.